can be free. I take the weight on my shoulders. I feel the sky come down on me. And I can hold it much longer. Gonna let go so I can be free. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Let's have a day. Happy Thursday, everyone. It is FT Live with Erik Kratz, AJ Pierzynski, and Scott Braun. Do we need name tags? Did you guys forget me?
Who?
What?
I was sleeping.
Oh, there we go. If you're watching right now on Stadium or on Stadium YouTube, there it is. Our names and our handles. So you guys better be fresh out of the bullpen because I'm hungover from Cincinnati. We had a strong 3 days out there at the ballpark, hitting a game, good dinners, good times, new sports book. So what'd you guys do?
Not that. Not go to Cincinnati. I know that.
You're not in Orlando, though, AJ.
No, I'm
Would
in
you like us?
Cleveland.
Would you like to give us the report? Yeah, what's going on out
Let's see.
there?
You want to know? Let's see. When was I on Thursday? Let's see. From Thursday, I was in Boston, Orlando, West Palm, Gainesville, West Palm. Now I'm in Cleveland. Yeah.
And so what's happening in Cleveland? Give us the report.
Big
Obviously,
game
the Guardians are done.
Orioles, Guardians tonight. Big game for the Orioles. Try to continue it. And Grayson Rodriguez, although nobody will confirm it, is supposed to pitch tonight against the Guardians. It's the weirdest thing. The Orioles PR will not confirm it, although it's on MLB.com and everywhere. But they will not say who's pitching. It's like the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Did you get an explanation on why, like what the problem is in terms of why they won't announce it? Because for me, I want to start punishing places if they're not transparent and going, okay, cool. Well, I'm just going to make shit up then and maybe think that, he's hurt, he disappeared. You guys don't like him anymore. Maybe he's available for trade.
Well, all those deadlines have passed. I don't know. It's weird. It's been everywhere, but like everyone you ask in Baltimore, they're like, yeah, I don't know why. And then the Guardians are like, yeah, we're not telling you who's pitching either. I'm like, you guys are out of it. You guys are done. Just tell us that you're doing a bullpen game, and we'll be fine with it. Just tell me so I can prepare.
Scott, you have gotten petty in the last 3 days since we've been gone.
Today,
well, you're not going to tell us?
Too.
You're not going to tell us? And fine. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to write a bad article about you, and I'm going to tell people bad things about you and make fun of your hair.
This isn't the CIA. Just
Scott,
tell us what's going on.
I'm going to take my ball and go home.
Just tell us what's going on. And if the answer is, hey, we're still figuring it out, that's fine, but give me something, I don't know. I mean, I know some teams with the gamesmanship don't want to say who's pitching and stuff like that, but I don't think this is one of those scenarios, like playoffs, opener, all that. So, all right, well, we'll see.
We'll have Bradish. We do have Bradish in game, so that'll be cool.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. Bradish is actually Cole's going to win the Cy, but he's going to get some serious Cy Young votes.
He'll get some votes.
Yeah,
for sure.
He's been fantastic. He was great again yesterday. I know we'll get to them at some point, but the Orioles lost to the Astros, but it wasn't Kyle Bradish's fault. So also, Max Muncy was on the show yesterday. We asked him about his homers. Obviously, FT muscles last night. His team lost, but tied a career high 36 home runs. And lastly, if you like AJ's shirt, FileTerritoryShop.com. There it is. I haven't mentioned it in a while, so don't say that I'm just shamelessly promoting all the time. There it is. Nice. Perfect. Russ Dorsey's going to join us in about 10 minutes. We're going to talk to Roger Clemens' son, Kacy Clemens, who had some time in pro ball. And then maybe a special guest later. I won't announce it yet until it's official. But we have juice. We have drama. And it came pretty close to showtime. Let's charge the damn mound, baby. So there is a very thorough essay in The Athletic from the Mets beat writers that was put together. And I have full transparency, not been able to finish reading it yet. There are some long-ass articles. I will read it all, but we did pick out a quote that has gone viral. Tommy Pham on the team says he told Lindor, quote, out of all the teams I played on, this is the least hardest working group of position players I've ever played with. Oof. Your thoughts?
Kipnis was right.
Well, you can put your apologies in the mail.
Is he calling out Lindor or really? I think he's calling out the whole group, though.
Is Lindor supposed to be the leader of the group?
Yes.
Well, then he's usually leaders lead by what?
Example.
Sample.
So what does that tell you? I mean, listen, I'm not in there every day. Kratz and I aren't in there every day, but this is kind of just this one quote is very interesting. And $400 million payroll, whatever the Mets had, and having to trade everybody away. But their key pieces are who? Lindor, right? Alonso as position players. I guess Nimmo, McNeil, and Tommy Pham, a guy who comes in for 1 year and says you guys don't work very hard. Like usually you'd be like, man, these dudes work their asses off, and I'm just trying to fit in. Instead, Lindor then says to Tommy, hey, thanks for teaching me how to work hard again. What the hell has he been doing for the last couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Lindor's going to get a lot of the brunt of this, and it's pretty damning comments to say that. But hey, we just said we want transparency, so this is transparency by Tommy Pham here. But Lindor also fessed up and was like, hey, you know what? He was right. I appreciated it. What that means, I don't know. I can only go by my experiences. And I remember when I went to the Phillies, this team was coming off of 4 straight National League East championships. You had a very, very strong core of players. And it was the first time in my career I had been with the Blue Jays in the minor leagues and the Pirates in the minor leagues and the big leagues. It's the first time in my career that I was like, wow, these dudes do nothing but work, and they want to absolutely get after it to try to win a World Series. So it's evident. It's evident when you come into a clubhouse just in spring training. I remember going home and telling people, like, this team absolutely works. They get after it, and there's no doubt what their focus is. We came up short that year, but it was definitely something that it was evident. So for Tommy to point it out, you see it. I mean, I think you see it right away. I don't know about you, AJ, but it is something that is very glaring.
Isn't normally your best? Normally, listen, it's not always the case, but your best player usually is your hardest worker. I mean, not all the time, but your best players usually are the guys that are there. They're grinding it out. They're, I don't want to say they're in the cage more because everybody does things differently, but they're usually the ones that are in the middle of everything. And so for someone to come in and say this, listen, it sucks for Lindor because I like Francisco Lindor. He's a great human being. He's a great guy to talk to. He's a really great player, and he's having a pretty good year. But just to have someone say this, man, like this is like the worst. I don't know about you, Kratz, but I feel like as a player, for someone to say you're not working hard, man, that's like one of the worst things someone could ever say about you as a player.
Absolutely. If you're, because you said, you kind of hit on it a little bit. You're like, oh, he's in the cage or he's in the weight room. People think like, oh man, well, I always see him in the weight room or I always see him in the cage. That doesn't necessarily mean you're working hard. You're talking about guys who are focused and locked in and want to be out there for 162 games. So exactly what Tommy was talking about, I don't know, but I know for a fact that the way Tommy works, when I played with him in 2019, he expects a certain level of accountability out of himself. But I think you see how guys do their work, and it's not about taking 100 swings in the cage. It's about what kind of focus you're putting into it, what kind of focus you're putting into your weight room stuff, whether it's a 25-minute leg day or an hour and a half bicep day for Yandy Diaz. The work has to be put in, and you can't – you know it when you see it. And it's not just one thing. You know it when you see it. And it is definitely you really can't – you can call a ball player a lot of things, but if you say you're not hardworking, that's harsh.
Now, there was clarification later on where he said he held a lot of respect, this is Pham, for the work ethics of the team's leaders. And it's the guys you're talking about, Lindor, Alonso, and Nimmo. And, I mean, they've put up numbers this year. But the point from you guys is there still has to be a level of accountability that they have to take. If there's a player saying that there's not good work ethic from guys on a team, those team leaders should be handling it.
But it's confusing to me. It's confusing to me that Pham says to Lindor, this is the least hardest working team. But then he says he respects the work of Lindor, Nimmo, and Alonso. It's like, wait, which one?
Well, there are other position players.
No,
you could
I know,
be talking about the rest of the team.
So the rest of the team doesn't do anything? Like, it's just weird to me that then the quote was, then Lindor says, hey, thanks for teaching me how to work hard again. Well, it just is like, okay, so the 3 leaders are working hard. allegedly, well, then they're not holding other people accountable, clearly. If those three are doing what they're supposed to do, then shouldn't the rest of the guys kind of get in line and follow suit? Because that's where it's confusing to me is if you just go with these quotes, there's got to be more. It's like he said something, and then he's like, well, I really kind of like those guys, so I don't want to blast them too hard. So I'm going to kind of cover my tracks a little bit and say, oh, yeah, they did work hard, just not what I thought they were going to be. It's like one of those, I'm going to say something, but then I'm not going to say it with my chest. I'm going to say it and then kind of back off and try not to lose their friendship.
No, I get what you're saying. He probably is calling them out because otherwise I'm looking at the roster. I'm like, is he calling out Brett Beatty, who's been down for a bit too, and then is back up with the big league club? Canna, who's traded. Mauricio, who just came up. McNeil. Yeah, Marte's been hurt a lot. I mean, then it's a lot of guys that are kind of just at the end of the year trying to, just get some playing time.
I mean,
like Castro, Ortega.
He's surely not calling out like Verlander and Scherzer.
No, he said position player
than anybody. I know.
He was clear. All right, so let me provide a little bit of a contrast here. So when we spoke to Muncy yesterday, he talked about the leadership of Freeman and Mookie Betts setting the tone for the entire team. There was great work in The Athletic this morning about GM of the Dodgers, Brandon Gomes, stating the case for Mookie Betts to be MVP. And he was talking about the ability to play multiple positions. And then when they didn't have a shortstop, when they lost Lux and Rojas went down for a bit, he was able to fill in. So I think the part that stands out to me is that he said towards the end of his whole explanation, pleading the case for Mookie, that it sends a message that everyone should be willing to do whatever it takes to win. When Mookie's showing up, like, where do you want me to play? Right? He's big money man MVP, like second base today, outfield today, shortstop today. Let's just produce the optimal lineup. And I'll be there early taking ground balls to make sure that, since I haven't played much infield in my life in the big leagues for a long time, I'm going to be at least average, if not really. He's been a strong second baseman and even at shortstop. I mean, it wasn't a ton of time, but looked pretty good over there too, and at least average at the position. So to me, that's where you have the leadership quality of a player performing, doing whatever it takes, and clearly setting an example for the younger dudes, because the Dodgers bring up young dudes too. James Outman's looking at him like, if I sit 3 days in a row because they're trying to platoon me or I'm cold, like, who cares? Mookie's doing whatever it takes to get a dub tonight,
And that's kind of basically pairs with what we both said. It's not about the amount of swings, the amount of lifting, the amount of video time. It's about who is going to compete when they get between the lines. And I think we're probably doing the quote by Tommy a disservice by like trying to pick out who exactly he's talking about, and more just the culture that's there. The culture of, like, are we really focused on winning a World Series? I mean, you're talking about a Mets team that came off of 103 wins, 104 wins, something like that, and then got bounced from the playoffs. You would think this team is hungry. And when a new guy comes in and sees the culture, you sit here and you go, well, did they really want to win? Like, was there if there's a shred of a doubt that you want to win a World Series, you might slide in to the playoffs. You might be a third playoff team, the wild card team, but you're not really focused on what you need to do. And he saw that.
Let me get one more perspective, because you guys weren't with us, and yesterday we were able to dive into the Padres story. Did you guys read anything from either Kevin Acee in his article where he spent some time talking about same thing, like guys setting the tone, clubhouse chemistry? Manny Machado kind of said it was overrated and was referring back to college ball and high school. And I understand sometimes where he's coming from, where, I don't think you should phrase it that way. But at the same time, I bring this up sometimes to you, AJ. I go, with the White Sox say, shouldn't players be accountable when you're like a 27-year-old dude? Like, do you need some other dude coming up to you going, hey, maybe you should show up to the ballpark a little earlier. Hey, your defense sucks lately. Like, why don't you get out there with the infield coach? Does someone need to be doing that? Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, do you really need – you do?
Yes, you do need that, because let's not forget, people are all have different personalities, Scott, and people all have different contract situations. You've seen Major League, right? Dorn. It's my free agent year. What do you want me to die for it? Like, there are times where people are thinking about that. And when you're going to go back to high school, the high school stuff has changed now too, because kids all have advisors if they're good, right? and they'll tell them, hey, you don't need to pitch in this tournament because, oh, God forbid you don't pitch well, you might lose your draft status. Like, how about you go out and you pitch for your high school and you try to win the high school game? And so, yeah, you need somebody in the clubhouse, in the locker room to say, hey, dude, guess what? This ain't working. You're going to have to, whatever it takes, like step up your workout game or take more ground balls or focus on this or do this. Yes, every good team has to have that bad cop guy. And I'm a big believer in that you have to have somebody other than a coach to come up to guys and say, hey, this ain't enough. We need more out of you. And it's easier to say than to find that guy. But if you can find that guy, usually good teams have somebody that will hold others accountable.
Did you see that or say that, Kratz, in your career where you'd look over and be like, oh, this rook's lazy. I got to tell him what's up.
It's easy. It's easy to tell the rookies they're lazy. It's much harder. And this is what the guy that I think AJ is pointing to is the guy that can tell the veteran guy, the superstar, whether he's on the upswing of his superstardom, reaching his apex, or he's on the downswing. You got to be able to talk to every single one of those guys. And 100%, I would call those dudes out. Maybe I would call them out in more of a comedic way. I would call them out in more of a like, oh, yeah, I didn't realize that, we had an off day, but then we had an off day starting the 7th inning the day before. Like, just stuff like that gets guys just talks to guys in a different way. You can't just go up to everybody and be like, AJ said, bad cop. You can't just be like, hey, what's your problem, bro? You might not connect with those kids, especially when you said like a 27, 28-year-old. Some of these guys have never struggled in their entire career. I'm not talking about pro career. I'm talking about life. They were the best in Little League, best in high school, best in college, best in high A, double A, triple A, all that stuff. All-star first few years. You still have to be called out because that's how you elevate your play and become better as a team.
Mm-hmm. All right, we'll get to all the pennant races going on right now in the bigs in a little bit, but I wanted to kind of hash that out because that came out there just before the show started, and that's going to get around. That's going to get some play. New York media is going to have some fun because they don't have much to cover with baseball right now because the two teams are out of it. They're going to be like, oh, we're going tonight, baby. We're going. Where's the game? We're going. Russ Dorsey is going to join us in a moment. Let's open up our poll question, though. So this is related to Yusei Kikuchi's viral comments about how much sleep that he is logging. So watchstadium.com/foul territory to play along. How many hours of sleep do you get? 4 to 6, 7 to 10, or Kikuchi hours of 13 to 14? And we'll clarify his comments. There's still a lot of confusion there. Let's bring in Russ Dorsey from Stadium coming up next, ready to go. Scrolling
I can't wait. I'm going to bury Russ.
Oh, great.
I saw you delivering food the other day on the back of a golf cart here, man. Hey, you guys were hitting people on the run. You were throwing it through windows as people were driving. I'll tell you what, I need to work with you in the horseshoes and the cornhole game. You guys were on fire here. Talk to us about it.
Hey, man, it was really fun. And of course, that there's little moments in the video there's little moments in that day that there are not in the video. So we have fun. It was awesome. I remember that I hit a lady on the face, like trying to give her like a shirt, and I threw it and she was happy. She was happy 100%, but we were laughing about it. But a lot of things happened that day. I was hungry because that was like right after the practice, and I didn't have the chance to go eat. And as soon as I saw like all the people like on the grill making like cooking some ribs and all that kind of stuff, and I like, wait, I gotta get something. It looks really good. And then I went to a little group of family they were like cooking, and I was like, can I get something? And they was, yes, of course, you can take whatever you want. And I tried some ribs, and they taste great, man. It was awesome day. We have fun. And that's the little things that I think that I enjoy to do during the season.
So were you taking a bite of the ribs and throwing the rest of that rack, or did you get a new rack for everybody?
Game used.
Because they're gonna put that on the internet. They're gonna put that and sell it, Freddie.
Oh my God! I was eating it on the whole road, and I got dirty because all the sauce and all that kind of stuff, and Willie got mad with me.
And now back to Foul Territory.
FT back with Stadium's Russ Dorsey. AJ, what happened? Are you just saying you want to attack Russ in general, or
No,
you have
we're going to
something
talk baseball,
specific in mind?
but before he gets off the air, we're going to have a chat about life.
Is this a college football talk?
No, this isn't college football. This is about life.
Russ, you
I'm
there?
prepared, so
Yeah,
I have nothing to hide.
Exactly. I'm like, what? Okay, so we'll see the blitz in about 10 minutes. But for now, Russ, let's start off with some news. We want to get some perspective from you on the Tigers naming a general manager in Jeff Greenberg. So First off, I didn't even think about the fact that, they had a position open because technically Scott Harris is there, but he's above him and he took over for Alavila not long ago. And then also I see in the bio that Greenberg was coming from the Blackhawks just now. So what do you got on this?
So Jeff Greenberg was the assistant GM for the Chicago Cubs when I was still on the beat in 2020, 2021, et cetera. He'd been with the Cubs for 11 seasons and one of those guys that really worked his way up in that front office and done a lot of different jobs. His final stop was assistant GM before he went over to the Blackhawks because he actually had interviewed for that position to be the general manager of the Chicago Blackhawks before they hired their GM, Kyle Davidson, last year. And so a guy that is very smart, went to Columbia, got a law degree from Columbia, is a guy that worked in pro scouting and development, and he's big into analytics, which is why, that background helped in both baseball and in hockey. So a smart guy, a guy that got to work with Scott Harris here in Chicago, but a guy who has also been in a lot of different roles and should be able to help the Tigers in terms of, scouting, player development, analytics, the whole shebang.
Now, is he going to be in a role like a lot of teams are now switching their roles where the president is technically the one making all the decisions, or is it going to be like, oh, well, this GM, Jeff Greenberg built this team and now this team isn't good, or is it going to be a more traditional, or the newer role where it's like scouting and player development and all that stuff?
I think it's going to be the latter, right? Like, I think if you see what you're talking about, the model in Major League Baseball, where you have the president of baseball operations, who is the figurehead, who is the guy that has the final say, right? What David Stearns is going to be for the New York Mets, what Jed Hoyer is for the Chicago Cubs, a lot of teams using that model. And I think when you have it that way, where you have the defined roles, hey, this is the president of baseball ops, this is the general manager that handles a lot of things, handles the day-to-day, but always that guy who's at the top, the president, is going to be the one making a lot of those decisions. And a lot of the president of baseball ops in baseball will say, hey, we're going to work in concert. We're going to work together and do a lot of these things. Like, I think for Scott Harris and Jeff Greenberg, since we're talking about them, they come from the Chicago Cubs model where you had Theo Epstein at the top, right? When in that 2016 run they made, you had Jed Hoyer, who was the general manager. And when Theo left, then Jed became the president of baseball ops and they hired Carter Hawkins to be the GM. So it's the model that they know, right? It's the model that Scott Harris knows from his time and even in his time in San Francisco, where he was in that GM role before he got elevated to president of baseball operations in Detroit. So I think it's the model that I think a lot of teams has seen works in Major League Baseball right now.
By the way, you're clearly not talking about the White Sox because they had a president and GM that didn't work together. But that's that's that wasn't the point. My thing is are they hope that was just that was kind of a cheap shot by Russ. But are they hoping for like a Jerry Krause kind of deal with the Bulls? Because Jerry Krause is in baseball, goes to the Bulls. Obviously, he had Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen and Dennis Rodman and that whole crew. But now it seems weird to me that a baseball guy would go to hockey and then he comes back to baseball. Like, to me, I know analytics are analytics, but there's still there has to be some sort of like, okay, I'm a baseball guy. I've been a baseball guy for a long time. Now the Blackhawks want me, and obviously they got the first pick and got the guy they wanted. But it just seems odd to me that you would switch sports like this.
I don't think it's weird. Personally, my opinion is being able to have interests outside of baseball, outside of whatever you do, is really good for the job that you do. And it's not like he's a guy that wasn't in baseball at all before, or like he was in hockey for 10 years before he came to baseball. He was in baseball for 11 years, doing every role in the front office besides being a general manager, and then decided to go work with the Chicago Blackhawks, and it was a brief stint, right? A year, and then he comes back to baseball when he now has a job with a guy that he worked with here in Chicago and can use all those same skills that he learned in his 11 years with the Chicago Cubs into his new role. So I don't think it's as weird a transition, especially when, look, I think I'm going to use myself as an example here. Everybody knows I'm a baseball guy through and through, but I do a show where I have to talk about other sports. That doesn't mean I'm not a baseball guy. I can still come on here, you can still write, still break news, do all these different things, but it makes me more well-rounded because I can talk about other things. And I think in a similar sense for Jeff Greenberg, the ability to go into analytics in baseball and in hockey, it's just another, club in your bag, right, so to speak, when it comes to
Russ,
baseball and helping build.
Listen, I have fantasy football teams. Does that make me qualified to be a football GM? Like, I have hobbies outside. That doesn't make me. I mean, I like hockey. Can I be assistant GM for the Blackhawks? I'm open.
Brother, over a decade in a front office.
No, listen, I'm not saying the baseball part is strange. It's just weird that he left baseball to go to hockey and now he's back as GM. It's nothing about I hope it's a great hire for the Tigers. And I think he's done some great things in baseball, but it's just weird you would leave to go to hockey and then come back. That's what's strange to me. It'd be like me being like, yeah, I talk about baseball every day. I'm going to go on game day and be, Fox Big Noon and talk football for a year or two. And then I'm coming back because I like college football.
Here's the other part. Sometimes about opportunity. Like maybe the job that he wanted wasn't out there. He saw an opportunity to do something that he wanted to do. We got to stay in the city of Chicago. He has hockey in his blood. And so if you have a chance to do all those things, and then the job that you always envisioned yourself in opens up, then it's like, okay, now's the time for me to go back to baseball where I want to be. So I just think there are 30 jobs in baseball when it comes to the GM positions, because a lot of every team doesn't have a president of baseball operations, so there's only a select number of jobs. And we talked about this last week, AJ. Like, there's only 30 managers in the big leagues, right? And so those jobs are precious. And so when you get an opportunity to do that, that's when you got to make your move.
I completely agree, and I also want to say too, the White Sox, they didn't go outside of any scope of baseball, let alone outside of their organization, and we roasted them on here. So it's kind of like, it's good to see, to me, it's good to see different perspectives. It's good to see different perspectives in different sports and how to handle personalities. So I think
we didn't roast them. You guys did. I was only positive.
You're right. Okay? You're right.
So let's just get that out there that I was positive. You guys roasted them.
I roasted them. Russ, I roasted them.
And listen, it's fine. It's fine. I was here, and I'm not going to say that AJ roasted them, but I'm not going to say that he didn't roast them.
It was me. I'm sorry. Getsy was hiring all of his buddies that he played with and didn't get a call. So now I'm pissed. Anyway, on to one of my other buddies who most likely has solidified the Cy Young race in Blake Snell, except Justin Steele kind of fell off here recently. Zach Gallen kind of fell off here recently. And, hey, Blake has done an unbelievable job. Snellzilla has turned out. Like, he has been unbelievable. But if he wins the Cy Young, which I believe he will be the first person to win the Cy Young in the last 10 years with less than 11 innings after the 6th inning. Corbin Burns won it. He had 11 innings where he pitched after the 6th inning. Talking all the way back to 2010, so that was 13 years ago, when Roy Halladay had 53 innings after the 6th inning. Is this his fault, or is this the manager's fault? Could he go 125 pitches to start?
So a couple things. I think that Blake Snell obviously should be the NL Cy Young winner. He's been the guy from end to end who has been the dominant starter in the National League. In his last 20 starts, guys, a 1.30 ERA. In that span, 166 strikeouts. The ability to dominate a lineup and say, you know what? Yeah, I'll walk 2 guys. I'll walk 3 guys. And you know what? It's not going to matter because I'm going to strike out the side and those guys aren't going to score. And when that stat that you talk about, which hell of a nugget, Kratzy, hell of a nugget there. For me, no, it's not Blake Snell's fault. If you ask Blake Snell, you want to start or you want to pitch 9 innings, he would say yes. But you do what you're asked to do, right? You're not your own manager. And he's coming from an organization in Tampa where it was the same way. Like, hey, you're going to go through the lineup twice, and then we're going to get the bullpen up. San Diego, similar. It's like, hey, get us through the lineup twice, and then we're going to go to the bullpen. And that's more circumstance than, like, it's not like he doesn't want to. And I think he's kind of the poster child for this, unfortunately, because of what we've seen in his past with the team that he played on, what happened in the World Series where they took the ball from him. It's not his fault. It's not his fault. But I think the fact that he's been able to dominate for this long, and yeah, the other 3 guys in the conversation, Logan Webb, Justin Steele, and Zach Gallen, those guys kind of, after what we saw from him, which was his Cy Young defining performance the other night, it's like, no, this should definitely be the guy. And we're just in a different time in baseball, and I don't think we should knock Blake Snell because of that. Like, he's not taking himself out of games.
Okay, let me ask you this. Is this the strangest career for a guy? Okay, because he's going to have 2 Cy Youngs, 1 in each league, right? You take away those 2 years, he's under 500 in his career. Heck, you take away 2018 where he was 21-5, he's under 500 for his career. I mean, this is one of the strangest careers because in 2018 when he won the AL Cy Young, right? 21-5, 1.89 ERA. Should have won 180 innings pitched. This year, 14-9, 2.33. But you look at every other year, he's got, 3.5 ERA, 4 ERA, 3.5 ERA, 4 ERA, 3.5 ERA, and then he's going to have 2 Cy Youngs. So then it goes to this. Most guys with 2 Cy Youngs, guess where they go? Cooperstown. Right. Is Blake Snell a Hall of Famer? Because it's such a strange career that the 2 great years that he's had have also coincided when nobody else is having a great year also. Because you look at the National League this year, there's nobody other than Blake Snell that's having a great year. Usually there's a couple of guys you can kind of argue, but then you also look at the AL, right? I mean, Cole's going to win the AL because he's the one having a great year. But normally there's a couple guys you can throw in the argument. The years that Blake Snell has done it, he's just blitzed everybody, and then the rest of the years he's been average.
I go back. Is it his fault?
No, it's not.
But it's nobody else, kind of rose to the occasion with him.
It's just, isn't it strange that like
it is?
His career is like 2 Cy Young awards, and then
like look at Tim Lincecum, right? Another guy with 2 Cy Young awards, where like he was dominant for that 7-year stretch. He was as good as it got, and then that was it. And it was a guy that we thought, oh, maybe this guy goes to Cooperstown, and it didn't end up being that way. Jacob deGrom also has 2 Cy Young awards. Is he going to end up in Cooperstown? I don't know. At this point in his career, is he going to stay healthy? I think it is interesting. And I think when you look at Blake Snell and kind of spin it forward, that's a guy that's a free agent. It's a guy that's going to be a free agent. And with Shohei Ohtani not being able to pitch until 2025, that guy is going to command a different market this offseason.
He is going to get paid. I think it's a fascinating question, actually, Russ. Now I'm starting to dig through because he's only 30 years old. I mean, if he wins another Cy, you're going to deny a guy. Like, let's say he pitches. Let's just be safe here. Let's say he signs a 6-year contract and he rides that contract out and stays generally healthy. And I will say he's pitched for the most part. He's had a few seasons. Obviously, I'm looking through here. I mean, it's not 30 plus every year, so he's missed some time, but not significant time. It's not like there's been seasons. This isn't DeGrom, right? Like he's mostly been on the field and pitching. So if he continues that for 6 more years,
but Scott, but listen, here's my thing. He pitches, but okay, he goes 189 innings. Okay, his first year, fine. But then he goes 129, 180 the year he won the Cy Young, 107, and he had 23 starts. That's under 5 innings a start. 2020 wash because it was a short year. Then the next year, 27 starts, 128 innings. That's not 5 innings a start.
Welcome to the modern pitching world.
But that's not even 5 innings a start.
I understand. Welcome to the modern pitching world. Are we only going to put starters in the Hall of Fame during this era if they were eating innings?
Well, no, but that's a big thing.
But some teams look at efficiency. I agree. But if he had 6 more years here and he ends up with about a 15-year career that includes 3 Cy Young awards, and not bad years either, like you said. The rest of the years are mostly in the average range, ERA plus, right? Because the league has fluctuated. We had the year where the baseball's flying. Offense has changed a lot up and down. That's why I love using numbers like that. there's 1 year where he's sub 100. The rest of the years are 100 or better, and there's a few of those years, even aside from the 2 Cy Young years, which are ridiculous numbers, where he still performed as an above average pitcher. So it's interesting. That's good shit. I haven't thought about that, but I like it. We'll kick it around.
It's kind of like the Stanton argument we had a couple weeks ago about, is he a Hall of Famer, right? If he gets to 500 homers. I think Stanton's done one thing really well in his career. He said homers, right? Other than that, it's been like, okay, what else does he do? He hits homers. He hits balls really far. So is he getting the Hall of Fame for that?
These are good ones. In the off season, we should pinpoint a few of these. So stay tuned. Russ, good to talk to you, man. We'll hit you next week.
No, he ain't getting off. No.
We got to go.
No, real quick. First of all, he's got Scott Braun's shirt on. Second of all, when someone invites you to dinner, at least offer to pay, dude. Don't just be like, oh, man, my wallet. I can't even get in. I forgot my wallet. Okay, we got to go.
No.
We gotta go.
No. We go out to dinner. I took out my wallet and I had my card in my hand.
No.
Shout out to our guy Sal that ended up paying, but I had my card ready.
Oh. Tell him. Wait, AJ didn't pay?
I didn't have the
No.
My buddy
He
paid.
asked his friend who wasn't in the big leagues to pay.
That's what happens when
Wow.
you're World Series champ. People pay for
See
you.
you soon, Russ.
Brewstar Gratterall, super cool moment for him. I don't know how much you got to observe from it, but that he was able to reconnect with his mom. And cool, we have some pictures here too for the crowd that's actually getting to watch and not just listen on the pod. But what did you get to see? And just for humanizing the sport, how much people can get from a player who's separated from family for 7 years. He hadn't been able to reunite with his mother until she hit a game last night.
Yeah, it was a very emotional moment for everyone on the team. Brewstar is, for anyone that knows him, that moment last night was extremely special. I can't even imagine, what it's like for your mom to not be able to have ever seen you pitch in a professional baseball game, and she gets to come over and gets to watch you pitch at Dodger Stadium. It's a really cool moment, and I know the Dodgers helped out a lot with that, and it was special. Everyone was so excited for it. He handled it pretty well considering, but I don't know that I would have been able to compete in that moment. I'd have lost it a little bit.
All right, so let's get to you, Mr. Walkoff. Do those get old for you at all? And can you take us through like the exact agenda for you after you pull off an accomplishment like that, which obviously is super cool individually, but for the team? Like, what's the moment that happens? Are you looking around like, nobody, smoked me, nobody hit me too hard, like we got a long way to go here still? Because that was actually pretty tame. It looks like, you guys have done this once or 100 times.
Yeah, we've definitely done it quite a few times, but it was more just hey, we got the job done, time to celebrate it a little bit and just enjoy it. We would kind of have our thing we do in the clubhouse after we win a series. So that was really more what everyone was focused on, was what we did in the clubhouse. And then the most important thing for me is don't get surprised by that water bucket. You got to spot who's bringing that thing out, and don't get surprised by it.
And now back to foul territory.
Back on FT Live on Stadium, getting ready for our next guest, and we'd like to make a little partnership announcement. One of our sponsors, TeaZa, who's been with us for the last couple months, we're going to extend that partnership. They're going to be a big part of things for many months to come. This show ain't going nowhere, and that includes the off season too. Very important. We will give you real talk all winter long when the drama unfolds. So to celebrate that announcement, we've got a giveaway, and we're going to charge the damn mound, powered by TeaZa, and bring in our guest, Kacy Clemens, joining us right now on FT Live. Looking good, Kacy. Great to have you on, man. How you doing? And we're excited to continue the partnership here.
Yeah, man. Thank y'all so much for having me on. This is awesome. I've been watching y'all's stuff, and obviously watched the show with Dad on here as well. But yeah, we're excited to extend the partnership with you guys and grow with you guys as the show continues on, and continue to do some more giveaways and stuff. So appreciate you guys having me.
Hey, can I ask you a question about, when you were bouncing around from when you were younger to college ball, minor leagues, indie, etc. How prominent is dip still in the game? Not the good stuff, not the non-nicotine, non-tobacco dip that we're obviously promoting. We would never promote the actual garbage that's out there that has ruined many lives. But, like for example, the other day, 2 days ago in Cincinnati, Sonny Gray just randomly stops by while we're doing the show, and he's like, "Oh, cool, what's this?" So it was just interesting to get his take, because there's a lot of guys that are either still dipping or around it, and then they pick up something like TeaZa and go, I still want to have that energy and that feeling here, but I don't want to, get
For sure.
get in
For sure.
trouble
Yeah.
with my mouth.
Yeah, to answer your question, it's very prominent. Obviously, as AJ and Kratzy, you guys all know, it's been around the game forever. It's part of the culture. It's just something that gets introduced to athletes and kids sometimes at somewhat of an early age, and sometimes it could be a fit-in kind of thing, or either way. However it starts, it's always a bad habit and can get you into some unfortunate health conditions. So I actually was introduced to the product in independent ball my last couple years playing, and I never dipped. I was around the game as a kid. I hated seeing spit cups and dip all in everybody's teeth, and I was against it, ever since I was a kid. But I'm a big coffee drinker, and as you guys know who've been in clubhouses, that clubhouse coffee is more like gasoline. It's like the whole Folgers cup, in the entire thing. So I used to start getting jitters playing baseball and hitting, and I hated feeling that way. And I got introduced to this. I was like, you know what, I'm not going to try it. Why would I try healthy dip when I don't dip? And then we had a rain out, and I had to get a workout in, and I didn't want to drink coffee, so I went to TeaZa to try it for some energy. And the transition of energy was so smooth and so clean that I was like, man, this is a really cool product. And then they were saying, yeah, we know the owner and we're a part of it. And a couple of the players on my team were, going to kind of working for the company or ambassadors for the company. And so I was like, man, I'd love to show this to my dad and kind of see what we could do with it. And, it's been growing like crazy ever since.
You've been following Cody? You've been following Cody's year this year, like actually like in the ballpark? Walk-offs, seen some dingers.
Oh, man, it's been so cool. It's been awesome. I think one of the coolest games was going to Philly for the home opener. And, it was kind of a crazy situation. He didn't get the call out of spring training, and I thought he was deserving of it. But unfortunately, the roster fell the way it did. And then somebody ended up getting hurt, and he got called up for the home opener. And I will say, baseball in the Northeast is a little bit different. It seemed like a World Series atmosphere, for the home opener. So it was so cool. It's been awesome to see him out there on some of the fields that we grew up, making memories on, and what an accomplishment it is to make it to the big leagues in general. So proud of him, and just been fun watching him play.
What was the Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Scott. I was going to ask him, did you see him strike out Shohei? I mean,
yeah, how about that?
Was that not like the greatest thing ever? I mean, your dad punched out a bunch of dudes, but I mean, he never punched out Shohei.
I know. I think the coolest part about that whole video is when Cody fist pumps, because it's like they're down by like 12 or something ridiculous. And it's crazy because when he was with Detroit, he had like 10 or 15 innings as a position player. So I jokingly told him when he gets to arbitration, he needs to say that, he's got 10 or 15 innings under his belt per year. But no, I thought it was so cool that, even though he was told to go out there and throw 40 miles an hour, just toss it in there, get a strike here or there, try to get some outs, he was still trying to, strategize and make pitches and, gas him up a little bit. And he finally got him to punch out, and the little fist pump was pretty funny. So that was definitely a cool experience. And I think that locked him into I guess him and my dad have the most strikeouts all time in a father and son duo. So that's pretty funny stat.
That is awesome. That's like a really good trivia question too. People would be like, what?
Yeah, I think that's hilarious.
It's a great point actually on ARB, because we talk to a lot of players who will open up, and we'll get a lot more of that in the wintertime. But for example, the one that drove me nuts in the past year was when Corbin Burns goes to arbitration, and they got shell shocked because they brought a case saying that when he slumped for like 2 weeks of the whole season, that's when the Brewers like lost their playoff chances. It was such like a joke of a case. And sometimes the arbitration panel is stupid and they're not paying attention that clearly. So they actually fell for it, apparently. But on the other end, that's a great point to bring up. Like, he should sneak that in there at some point and be like, I'm actually a two-way player, by the way. Like, you're eating up innings. Somebody has to do it. And also, you're not trying to be out there for an hour. So it's like, oh, and I struck out Shohei. I love that.
For sure. Yeah, I think it's a funny joke, but at the same time, it's like, look, I'm out here somewhat risking my career throwing 40-mile-an-hour meatballs right down the middle to the best hitters in the world. What happens if, there's a comebacker or I got to make a play? Or not saying that, the chances of that are likely, but you are right. Like, he's out there, pitching in a big league game, whether it's tossing it in there or not. So arbitration as a whole is pretty wild. It's, you tell the team how good you are, they tell you how bad you are, and then you shake hands and say, all right, let's win a World Series.
Yeah, that's crazy. But all right, if he's not comparing arbitration pitching, if you go home at Thanksgiving, who has the rights? Obviously, Pops is the best pitcher. But I was looking at some of your college stats. They bagged you. They bagged you on the mound. Do you have a little bit more than Cody on the mound? Because you pitched a little bit in college too.
For sure, yeah. So I kind of have a wild story. I'll kind of run through it quickly, but I was always a pitching prospect coming out of high school. That's kind of how I got into the high school All-American games and was really getting a chance to be drafted out of high school, was because of what I was doing on the mound. My mechanics look eerily similar to my dad's, not because I tried to make him that way, but just because I just watched him so much and learned from that. But I ended up tearing my labrum my senior year in the state semifinal game, and that kind of diminished all my chances of getting drafted high. So I ended up still going to Texas, went there as a 2A guy, and my freshman year I could only I could only hit because I couldn't throw. And so got as good as I possibly could at first base, taking ground balls. That was the only place I could have played as a freshman. Ended up getting the starting spot. Hit the whole year, didn't play great. So the next year we tried to get me back on the mound. I was fully healthy. And after labrum surgery, it's pretty common that your velocity will vary and sometimes you don't get it all back. So some games I would be like 93, 94, and then some games I would be like 85. It was pretty crazy. So then my junior year came around and I was like, man, I've got 1 year under my belt on each position. So I decided to just say, you know what, I'm going to hit until they tell me not to. And then if I'll just come out of the bullpen and see if my arm handles up and just see what pans out. And I ended up becoming a way better hitter and first baseman, and my arm just never came back. And so that's how I was drafted. But to answer your question, we have had many competitive battles in the cage off of Dad with my oldest brother, Kobe, who was a big power hitter, me, and then Cody as well. And, we beat up on Cody a lot as, he's the youngest one. But, he's the best true hitter out of our family. Kobe and I probably have more power than him, like overall. But, power is no good if you can't get the ball in the barrel as much as he does.
Now that you all are grown men, who wins in a wiffle ball game? Because that's all that mattered when you were a kid.
Oh, yeah. We don't play as much wiffle ball. I would say golf matches are huge, but my oldest brother has twin boys now, so the wiffle ball and the fun backyard games are definitely coming back. So we'll have to circle back, and I'll let you know what the record is on the future wiffle ball games.
Need it.
Before we get into your dad, what is that? What is that chain you have around your neck? That thing is blinding.
Yeah, I actually my parents gave me this a long time ago, and I never wore it because I didn't like wearing gold, and I just put it on 1 year, and now I've probably worn it for the past 5 years. But yes, I do get a lot of comments on it, especially from some of my teammates. They enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's a big one. It looks good though.
Thank
When
you.
we had your dad on, was there any story that he told that you were like, wait, I didn't know that about you, Dad, or does he pretty much open about everything? And then
Yeah.
also when you guys were talking about, we took hacks off Dad, would he throw at y'all? Because he threw at me a few times, and so would he throw at his own kids too?
I know it. I know it. He would jokingly, if we took him deep, he would throw one to the back of the backstop and let us know, hey, if you, I, I will say, if you see some of the showboating today, I'm not sure how well he would have handled that back in his day. But no, we've talked about a lot of stories. Obviously, there's so many things that go around nowadays with social media that you're pretty much like, hey, Dad, this just came out. What do you think about this? And he gives us kind of the rundown on some things that are true and some things that are not.
Would you? All right. Well, no. Hold on. Would you watch if him and Mike Piazza fought? Would you go? Would you pay?
I'd probably be in the corner.
Let's go.
Let's do this. Let's go. Talk him into it. Let's go.
No, I know. I mean, obviously, the chances of that actually happening is very slim. But two pretty huge athletes back in their day, and they obviously battled it out many times on the field, and each of them got the best of each other, and that's what the game's all about. But hey, I'm in for raising money for any kind of charities, and you know what, TeaZa and Foul Territory can be the main sponsors, so it'll be a win-win all the way around.
I'm down. We've been talking it up.
I don't know if my dad, being 60 years old, can get past throwing 5 punches though without needing an oxygen tank.
That's fine.
3 rounds, keep it snappy.
Yep.
3 rounds, keep it snappy. Whatever.
3 rounds. You guys are ambitious.
3 30-second rounds. 3 30-second
Yeah,
rounds.
exactly. Like pitch clock rounds. All right, so let's do our giveaway announcement here to everyone involved in the TeaZa fam. We appreciate them giving some things away, and Raj, of course. So we put the post up. You can like it, follow TeaZa Energy, Foul Territory Show, and Roger Clemens. You tag 3 friends in the replies, and you'll be automatically entered for a chance to win a set of those 4 dugout mugs signed by Rocket and free TeaZa products all around it. So get after it. That's opening up today. And it was really awesome talking to you. Appreciate it, man.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me. Appreciate it. Let us know what we can do on our end to make everything successful for you guys. Love watching you guys.
Thank you. Yeah, we're going to keep bringing it on the road. So players who don't know about it do. Use the discount code FOUL, FOUL, for 20% off your first order at TeaZaEnergy.com. Be right back with our picks.
Scott, it seems to me their preference has always been Tampa, if they could get to Tampa. And for whatever reasons, and I'm not that up to date on the political processes that have gone on in both cities, but they feel that the more realistic deal is in St. Petersburg. And I will say this about St. Petersburg, and I was not aware of it. I was there a few weeks ago for a Fox game, and I talked on the field with Stuart Sternberg, their owner, and he explained to me that St. Petersburg as a city is much different than it was 10, 20, 30 years ago. It's kind of booming in its own way. So while it's not Tampa, and while the population up in Tampa is still going to have a difficult time getting down there, you're building a 30,000 seat stadium, development around it. If you have a good enough team, I would think with the area seemingly growing, you should be able to draw. Now, if you can't draw under these circumstances with all that they have planned, and what they want to do, of course, is a 30,000 seat retractable roof stadium with a battery type condominium development complex right next to it, just like Atlanta, which has the battery. Whether it happens, it seems like it will now. This is the furthest they've been along. It's not totally done yet, but it seems that the politicians are relatively on board and will approve what has to be approved here. So is it the ideal scenario? Maybe not, because still the Tampa Bay area has the larger population. It's more accessible to a greater number of people. But the Rays certainly believe that this can work. And I don't know that they would be putting this much effort into it if they didn't feel it could work, right? They would just maybe say, we'll take Nashville, or we'll take Portland, or we'll take Vegas, whatever the case might be. Instead, they see their future as being tied up into this ballpark development complex.
And now Back to foul territory.
All right, let's close up the poll as we finish up on FT Live on Stadium, and then we'll continue the next hour with Kyle Glaser talking prospects with us from Baseball America, and maybe one more special guest, and a lot to get to still. But the winner on the poll question is in that 7 to 10 range for hours of sleep, which, I mean, we kind of put people in that position the way we split it up. But do you see that Kikuchi story? And there's all kinds of buzz about it. He's like, oh, it's the day before starts, and some people say he's kidding. I don't think he's kidding about the 13 to 14 before starts.
Good for him. Good for him.
He's only awake for 10 hours.
Listen, as somebody that can sleep at any point in the day, at any moment, I love it.
How many hours do you get on average?
Oh, I need my 8 for sure.
8?
Oh, yeah. If I'm up at 6, I'm down by 10.
You're 10 to 6. Kratz, what are you?
I'm 7 to 8. And when you're playing, though, I was more of an 8 to 10. Definitely need it when you're playing.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of guys said. Like Todd Father yesterday said he got more back then versus what he does now. He said he was in the 10 range when he played.
Well, yeah, but you're in a hotel. You're by yourself. What else are you going to do?
Right. That's fair. And that's kind of what Kikuchi was saying. And also the day before start, it's like he doesn't want to have anxiety and just be overthinking shit. So he's like, just going to sleep, be really, really well rested. So good for him. But it's gotten a lot of buzz.
Got to eat, too.
Got to eat? Yeah, got to eat.
Yeah.
But I'm just surprised by how many people can't sleep.
I'm raising my hand. See you on hour 2. And Kratz and me have an announcement coming up.
So I can be free. I take the weight on my shoulders. I feel the sky come down on me, and I can't hold it much longer. Gotta let go so I can be free. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Second hour of FT Live running on the YouTube channel. Braun, Pierzynski, and Kratz. The boys are back in different places, but we'll be together again soon. And Kratz and me will be virtually hanging out this evening playing a little poker. Okay? Are you excited, Kratz? Are you ready? Game face? Like, we're going to have a potentially long evening staring dudes down virtually.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be looking at their IP address. That's I'm going to be looking at their IP address up and down.
So here's more info. Stay on this for a sec. So running for a 10-day span, and we're getting to the last few days, and you can enter every day. You download the BetMGM poker app, or you can play on your computer if that's more your style. But tonight, the tournament starts at 8 o'clock Eastern time. It is a trophy event. I should be playing on Sunday, too, in the main event championship at 6 o'clock Eastern time. You can play, if you've got the app or if you go online, in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, or Michigan. And there's a welcome offer for new customers, a $1,000 deposit match, $75 in tournament tickets. You can get more info on the BetMGM poker page. But Kratz and me, wish us luck. Going to do our best.
Yeah, we're gonna do awesome. I all I do is win, win, win.
Exactly. And I'm going to be playing online poker while watching the Fox game of the week with the Guardians and the Orioles. So
Huge matchup. Huge matchup.
I am
Listen.
that good. I can multitask like that.
I'm gonna listen. I just want to hear the illustrious voice of AJ Pierzynski.
Exactly.
Me and Adam Amin, we're gearing up for the playoffs, so let's go.
That's true. I love that broadcast team. Let's do our picks before we talk to Kyle Glaser from Baseball America, who is a prospect expert, and we'll take some of your questions too. We've got a few that have flowed through. So your BetMGM locks. First off, we backtracked to yesterday. Rough day. I'm cold again. Danny going with the Guards run line. Didn't work out. Great pick too. And Todd Father nailing it with his money line on the Diamondbacks. So we update our money bags. We get going. You guys got to get back in the mix here. Ready to make some picks? Wow, Kratz, damn.
This is a big day for me. This is a big day. You might have my obituary written for the season because I'm not making the playoffs, but gosh darn it, if I can make it back. I did not need these off days. My picks were great. I didn't need these off days. This is like when you're hot at the plate and you're like, really? Like, we have an off day? Let's play again. Like, I want to play a double header. I'm swinging the bat so well. They iced me. They iced me, so I got to try to get back on track. This is the closest I've been to 500 since I was 0-0.
And the money is up huge, so you're in good shape there.
I'm going to start betting $20 a time now, from now on. So my money never goes back down.
Fair. Okay, so you want to start things off? What do you got tonight, Big Shot?
I really wanted the Phillies and Mets game, but something happened with when I was plugging it in and I couldn't get it in time. So I'm going with Tarik Skubal, who, by the way, if you haven't watched, is an absolute beast, throwing 97 to 99 from the left side and then dropping a 82 to 84 mile an hour changeup on fools. He is going up against the vaunted lineup of the A's. So I'm looking at 7+ Ks from him and the game to go 3.5 runs or more.
Nice. A little 3.5 just to get a little bump. I like that. I see what
just
you're doing.
Get it close to plus money. I think it's minus 105. So just need it.
I got a combo deal too. I got Braves run line tonight, and then I'm going over 5.5 runs. So I think it could be somewhat low scoring, but I'm going 6 or more here. Jake Irvin on the mound. The ERA is in the mid-4s. The xERA is about a run higher than that. The reason that I don't want to go too hard on the run total is because it is Max Fried on the mound. And the Braves have been a little cold lately. They've lost 4 or 5, which is part of why I'm picking on them. You can't keep them down for long. This just looks like a classic Fried tune-up for the postseason. Keep dominating like he's been doing since he's come back. And then the Braves running up some scoring. So I've got that run line with -1.5 and the over 5.5 runs for the game at -115. AJ?
I'm kind of going a little bit like Eric here. Now I'm just making off crazy bets to see how high I can get the plus number. So I'm going Tigers win. Tigers win. Just all you can do is win. They play the A's. They can win. They got their guy Skubal pitching. He needs 5 punchies and 1 walk because he's going to walk a guy. A's are going to play money ball. There's going to be a walk mixed in there. And then Medina needs 4 strikeouts, and that gets me to plus 200. I mean, it's not asking for a lot. 5 strikeouts, 4 strikeouts, 1 walk, and a win. I mean, it's pretty simple. Pretty simple strategy.
I just keep thinking that we need to change the graphic from locks to locks? Question mark?
Well, do you see my?
We haven't lost old Kikuchi over there. Kikuchi was looking for some.
You guys are drawing shit up. That is actually, it's doing well. It's just it's so complicated. It's so much work.
Yeah, but nobody likes. See my picture. Look at my picture. It's like, well, what?
Well, yeah, it's like, am I going? Like, I feel like I have a certain style. Kratz has a certain style, right? If you're like, hey, I'm interested in the game, I'm going Braun. If I'm interested in like the pitching matchup, usually I'm going Kratz. And if I'm just trying to get drunk tonight, I'm going to go down on what AJ's going with because sometimes it works.
Yeah, you never know. Sometimes you
Worth
get
a
lucky.
shot.
Sometimes
Yep.
you don't. Why not?
Locks? Question mark.
Locks. Foul 200 is the code to bet 10 and get 200 instantly when you place your first BetMGM Sportsbook wager through the app of at least $10. You'll receive $200 instantly in additional winnings, regardless of your wager's outcome when you sign up and you deposit at least $10 in there as a new user on the app or the website. You place a wager in there at standard odds price. And once you place that qualifying bet, you'll receive $200 in bonus bets, regardless of the outcome of your wager. Gambling problem or concern? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Okay,
By the way, is that Steamin' Willie Beeman before he got paid with the Miami Sharks or after?
After, for sure.
Okay,
do you see how good it? Like, I mean, there's like not a
get
crease,
that jacket.
not a shadow on the shirt. So, am I better here without the shades?
No,
Or
it's
without
still the shadow is
glasses?
amazing. It's never going to go away.
I haven't seen it before. Oh, how's that?
No,
I'll do the show.
there you
like
go.
this.
There you go. When you look down, it looks like you might have like a there you go. Not that far. When you back up, it looks like you have like a dinosaur. See it?
Well, did you guys
Like
see?
he's sweating.
Did you guys see? Yeah, that's true. Did you see the story? I mean, with Ken Rosenthal and Dennis Lin about the Padres, the part about the dude that they hired from the cricket team,
Tricker?
Don Tricker. You guys know about this dude?
I asked some dudes that used to work for the Padres about him, and he was like, basically, I sum up the text message because I just asked him, I'm like, hey, what do you got this Don Tricker guy? Because I've been in organizations, the Blue Jays, they hired some dude that was from Australia or something, and he was like, yeah, mate, I'm coming in here to change the culture around and stuff like this. And then the Pirates, they hired like Navy SEALs. So you've seen this stuff, and you just kind of wonder, like, what? So I asked him, like, what kind of role did this guy have? And his answer was, pretty much just a AJ Preller hire. And that's all he left it at. And it was like, I didn't press him for more, but it was one of those things. That article, speaking of a long article, but a good article, that was a long article. But you talk about the culture part of it, everybody wants to push it on the players. Sometimes there could be some culture stuff that trickles down.
That's what I'm saying. One dude, unnamed, a lot of people had to talk shit and couldn't put their name on it. Understandable. One dude said he's just a spy. They were like, what's he doing? They were like, not much. He hasn't ever really butted into a meeting and said anything helpful. I'm paraphrasing here. And then one dude's like, yeah, he's just a spy, where he goes back and tells Preller what people are doing.
There are those guys. Kratz will tell you, there are guys, whether it's a coach or someone that works in the organization that's around the team, that will go back to whether it's the front office or whoever and say, hey, this player, he's not liking what you're doing. He's talking about it. Trust me, there are spies in every organization that are just there to tell the GM/president what's going on in the clubhouse and who's talking shit about them so they know.
I wouldn't say every organization. I would say the ones that you're like, man, what is their issue? Like, why do they just continue to shoot themselves in the foot? That is something, because other organizations don't have time for that stuff. People who really like lead by example and want the team to win from a front office standpoint, from a training staff standpoint, they're like, Uncle, we do not have time for all this other garbage, because it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort to want to be good at your job for other people. But if you have people, which I completely agree with AJ, there are people who are hired or they feel like they need to keep their job and they want to be spies. And you have to watch out for those. I got in trouble with one of the teams I was with because I said something on the bus, joking with people and making fun of people on the mic. And a spy called me in, got me called into the principal's office and only got half the story and basically took out of context what I said on the bus. And I was like, okay, whatever. And I ended up getting fired from that team later. But like, it was a joke, but the person thought, oh, well, this could be offensive to the people that he said it to. And so I approached the people that I said it to, and they were like, what? No, it was hilarious. But somehow, when it was supposed to be player only, this spy came out and narked on me.
Whoa. I need any more context that you can give us there? I mean, that's crazy. So,
I mean, basically, I was on the bus,
yeah.
and the back of the bus was loud, and I said, whoa, 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 winter ball in the back of the bus. And because it was all the Latino guys, it was a long road trip. We had an off day. Everybody was having some extra sudsies. And so it was just getting loud and nobody could hear. So I just made a funny comment and I got called into the office saying, "Hey, we don't say that kind of stuff on this team." And I'm like, "Kind of what stuff?" And it was completely taken out of context. And I'm not saying I got fired because of that, but it was because, I got called into the office and it was like, what? Like, no, like I'm not sitting, like what's said on the bus on the mic, it stays on the bus on the mic. And so I'm 99% sure who it was that said it, and I confronted them and they denied it. So there's that.
That's some bullshit right there. Also, when did the spy hires ever work? Like, you guys are naming some shit, and you're naming stuff about teams that are consistently bad. The Navy SEAL stuff, that's so tired. The thing we're talking about here with the pods, clearly there's a lot more negativity around a hire like that than positivity. And I get the contrast of, hey, we want to have different thoughts and ideas, but you have to be very careful about how that's implemented because you have a bunch of people in a room that have devoted their entire life to doing something. So there's got to be some sensitivity in how you approach that. Throwing a cricket dude in there being like, hey, this is how we do it here, let's try it. Most likely not going to work, right? Because if that's positive, wouldn't everyone be doing some of the things that he wants them to do?
Look, I have a buddy of mine that's one of the Navy SEAL guys that he works with some teams, and he doesn't go in there and like tell them what to do. He's just there for a different mindset, right? And saying like, it's not like my buddy that he works with some teams. He goes in and he just talks to the players about like, it's more of almost like a mental skills coach, not on that level, but it's more of like how to overcome adversity. Oh, you're in a slump. Well, guess what? I was in Iraq or Afghanistan and I had, 50 Taliban dudes shooting at me. And it was just me and my three buddies. How do we get out of this? And it's more of that, at least the one I know. It's not like he goes in there and he's like, this is how you play baseball. This is what we do. Because I was a Navy SEAL. It's more of like, hey, look, man, this is how we overcome adversity. This is what teamwork means on the ultimate level. And so for that kind of stuff, I'm all for that, bringing in people from outside to give you a different perspective. But these guys don't need to be talking about baseball. They just need to be talking about life.
Mm-hmm. And that's the difference. First, Scotty, I don't think people hire people to be snitches. I think they are hired and they feel like they don't. Well, maybe they do. I've never run across people who are like, hey, you're going to get $40,000 a year to come and be in this organization. And I want you, because you're going to be a good snitch for me. It's more of people who don't necessarily have a role that they're like, wow, I feel important in this role. Or like, oh, I'm not holding on to my role. Like, I don't feel like I'm confirmed in this role. I don't feel like I'm solidified. So I can come up with information for the people who have a solidified role. But what AJ said is spot on. Like, there is so many people outside of baseball that can give you perspective in life to understand that baseball does not mean that much, but it's all about how you approach it. If you approach a professional athlete, even I was a professional athlete, and if I go into a football clubhouse, a football locker room, and I say, guys, you know what you guys need to do when you pass the ball? You need to make sure you have totally stepped over the line. And there's people from the military that I've seen come in and do mental skills coaching and have done a great job. But they humble themselves in understanding what the baseball guys go through, but they bring in their life experiences. Like I'm sure AJ's Navy SEAL buddy, like that's how you learn from other people's experiences, by trying to put yourself in their shoes, not telling them how to do something from, well, I was a businessman and when I came from it's what the wrong analytics guys do. They come in and they say, well, the numbers aren't wrong. I promise they're not wrong. There's no chance the numbers are wrong. You have to listen. That doesn't help anybody.
Yeah, I can make any number right or wrong. That's the beauty of that. That's where that gets too deep. Anyway, we're ready for our next guest. From Baseball America, you've heard his prospect reports on here. Let's bring on Kyle Glaser to go over some of those prospect call-ups. There's been a billion. Kyle, how are you? And I actually want to start in a fun way here. Favorite prospect call-up so far this year that you were either most excited about to see in the bigs, or since he's been called up, you're like, okay, this guy's even better than I thought.
Yeah, I think the one that really stands out is Nolan Schanuel with the Angels, considering he was the 5th fastest position player ever called up in the history of the draft and barely played in the minors, came up, and he's reached base in 24 straight games to start his career. It's remarkable when you consider the gap between college baseball, not just college baseball, he was playing mid-major college baseball, to come up to the big leagues as quickly as he has and having success hitting leadoff. It's kind of remarkable and just kind of enjoyable to see in what's been an otherwise dismal season for the Angels on a lot of levels.
Well, you said the 5th fastest? Who are the other 4 faster?
Ooh, I'm going to have to pick up. I don't know it off the top of my hand, but I can pull it up for you real quick. Put me on the spot.
Okay. Yeah. Take your time.
But yeah, no, I mean, it's been, one of those things. We've seen prospects coming up faster and faster in recent years. But even with that, this was remarkable. He was at low A for a hot minute, double A for a little longer, and that was it. So the 4 prospects, position player prospects who were drafted that reached the majors faster than Nolan Schanuel were Dave Roberts, not the Dodgers manager Dave Roberts, the old Dave Roberts from the 70s who played for the Padres, Bob Horner, Dave Winfield, obviously a Hall of Famer, and Brian Milner. Milner was the last and most recent to come up this quickly. He was a catcher for the Blue Jays, reached the majors 17 days after being drafted. Back in 1978, all these guys were in the 70s. And Nolan Schanuel doing it in 2023 is remarkable and really unprecedented in the last 30 plus years.
Why do you think players are coming up so fast? Doesn't it seem like it's crazy to me that like these guys, 2 weeks later, this and that, but gosh, it's like, gosh, these guys are rushed. It's I don't know, but is it because of travel ball when they're younger, they're exposed to more? Is it because the colleges have gotten so much better? I mean, Jackson Holliday's 19 years old. He's in AAA, and he's doing well. I mean, how are these guys ready for these situations?
Well, it's a couple of things. On the amateur side, things have gotten a little bit more professionalized. You talk about the high school level, not just travel ball, but USA baseball, and even regular high school coaches now have so many more tools and training assets available to them now to help these players get better. College baseball, we've seen a lot of major league coaches go coach at the college levels, help these guys get ready quicker just in terms of their preparation and giving them the tools needed to succeed at higher levels. But the other part of this is, and the biggest reason why we're seeing so many guys ascend the minors as quickly as they have been recently, is when Major League Baseball took over the minor leagues and reorganized the minors in 2021, they cut off 40 teams, got rid of the short season levels. The overall caliber of play in the minors dropped precipitously, particularly at the lower levels, at the Class A levels. So what you've seen now is teams saying a lot of the top young players, they just don't have that much to gain at low A or high A any longer. So they're sending them through those levels pretty quickly, moving them to double A. And as you guys know, once you're in double A, you're in striking distance to the majors. If you perform there, you start getting consideration to be called up. So a big part of this is just the quality of play at low A and high has dropped so much after minor league reorganization. Teams don't really see the value in keeping top guys there for very long.
So what's the deal with Holiday? Why isn't he up with the Orioles? Is it because they've got, a lot of talent on the big league squad? I don't think anybody at this point doubts that if he was called up, he would more than hold his own right from the jump, even with a playoff contender and potentially even be an instant hit. He hasn't really struggled much. You can correct me. You're paying even closer attention, but give us like your worldview of the story of Jackson Holiday, the rise, when he's coming up, and should the Orioles have called him up or still could for a playoff run?
Yeah, it's really remarkable. You talk about this time last year, he had just graduated high school. And for a high school draftee to be in AAA 1 year after he was drafted is nothing short of remarkable. And he's a player that's been on a consistent upward trend, continues to get bigger, stronger, faster every year. We're seeing the power start to come, and he's always been a really instinctive player, as you'd expect, as someone who's the son of a player who had as good of a career as Matt Holliday. I think with him, the biggest thing you're talking about is, as talented as he is, as polished and as poised as he is, physically, this is still a teenager. This is still a young kid. And while he's had a lot of success at every level so far, there's still not a lot of total at-bats at AAA. And the other part of this is I talked about the quality of the minors declining. The gap between AAA and the major leagues is wider than it used to be. So taking a kid who still has a lot of physical development left, who really doesn't have that many at-bats at the AAA level, and thrusting him into the pennant race, especially as the Orioles are trying to get home field advantage in the American League and stay in first place and not have to play a wild card series, thrusting him in right away in that high-pressure situation might not be what's best for him long-term. Again, he's instinctive, he's polished, he can survive, but when you look at the Orioles are in great position right now, throwing him into the mix might not be what's best for him long-term. I think it makes sense that they're letting him get some more at-bats at AAA and seeing where the chips fall there.
Wait, so you're saying that AAA has regressed, low A, high A has regressed. Like, is this something that MLB created on their own? Is this like, I know MLB could care less about the minor leagues. They really are just more about getting cheaper players to the big leagues. That's what the owners want. But like, did they create this monster? And what makes you say that the gap between AAA and the big leagues is so much bigger now?
Yeah, so this is a byproduct of what Major League Baseball did by eliminating the short season levels. That gap between rookie ball and full season ball low A used to have the Northwest League, the Pioneer League, these short season levels that were higher in the complex leagues. They eliminated that. So what happened is a lot of guys from rookie ball who really aren't ready for full season ball have nowhere else to go. So they're up at low A. So low A now is basically what the short season leagues used to be. And then high A is what low A used to be. So we've seen the caliber of play decline there most precipitously. In terms of double A and triple A, there is a sense that it's declined a little bit, in part because a lot of those really talented young prospects who are now being rushed through the lower levels and don't have that short season stopgap, if you will. A lot of times they're not ready to make the jump to double A, and that filters down to triple A too. So you're seeing a lot of teams signing a lot more of the older veteran types, the 32-year-old, the 34-year-old who has big league experience, has spent a lot of time in AAA and kind of knows, how to play the game, but their pure ability level might not be as high as a really good young up-and-coming prospect. So we've seen a lot of kids struggle to make the jump to low A and high A, and then as a result, a lot more filler types are kind of filling out the rosters in double A, triple A. And as a result, you're seeing more guys in AAA now throwing 86, 87, 88, whereas before you had guys throwing real gas on a consistent basis.
Kyle, my question is kind of along the lines with Kratz's, though. Is Major League Baseball did this, and I've talked to some people that are in minor league, positions, and they're like, well, it also, we don't have enough players and they have to get rid of players sooner because they don't have enough teams and they can only have certain roster sizes. So like you're talking about the short season, this and that. Well, you used to be able to a guy got out, like say a high school kid was drafted. If you don't perform right away, they have to get rid of you because guess what? A new draft crop of 20, only 20 rounds is coming in. We have to clear 20 players plus the international guys that are coming up every year. So it doesn't allow for late bloomers and guys to kind of like you said, play 2 years in A ball, play a short season, play a low A. Oh, he figured it out. Oh, boom, he gets there now. So, I don't know that this is one of the byproducts. And honestly, I don't know that I love this for the future of baseball.
Yeah, there's certainly been a lot of issues that have sprung up. If you go and watch low A baseball right now, just to be frank, it can be hard to watch because it's a lot of kids who are still learning to play the game. 18 years old, 19 years old, sometimes 17 years old. Ethan Salas was 16 and he was in low A this year. So you have a lot of guys who you can see there's talent there, but they need time. They need physical strength gains. They need to learn to play the game. And a lot of times not given a chance. It's, hey, you're in low A and we're going to cut you. We have to push you up to high A, even if you're not ready. A lot of times teams just push them and they continue to struggle. Then they eventually get released. So we have seen this really, really hurt Latin American players in particular who sign younger, move up a little younger, and thus the physical development comes a little bit later. And you're right, there's definitely a lot of kids out there now who need, a short season and then another year at low A and maybe a second year even starting at low A that don't get that now. And there is an argument to be made the talent pool is suffering because of that.
Okay, I'm going to ask my next question, but I'm going to tell you that I was offended by the whole AAA old guy that doesn't have as much talent.
I thought about that as I was saying that. My bad, Eric.
It's okay. It's okay. I was off camera.
Hey,
I wipe
the
I
truth
wipe the
hurts, Kyle.
tears away.
The truth hurts, Kyle. It's okay. Don't apologize.
No, he didn't apologize. He didn't apologize. He just said he thought about it. He thought about hurting my feelings. Every time he wrote articles about me as a prospect, he thought about hurting feelings.
That's why his hand hurts, by the way, Kratz. He wrote so many articles about you as a prospect.
I was going to
not
say
as a prospect.
you were a prospect a little before my time, so I'm innocent on that count. I never wrote anything about you as a prospect. I did write about you as a big leaguer, and I don't know if you remember, I actually called an interview with you a few years ago when you were Team USA's catcher preparing to go to the 2020 Olympics. So I know Erik Kratz, the veteran, but I am innocent of all charges about writing about you as a prospect. That was a little before my time.
That's what all the writers say. They were innocent. They were innocent about writing about me. There was nothing to write about. But I want to ask you, out of the top 5, who do you think has the greatest big league career, in your opinion? Out of the top 5, the main, the James Wood, the Paul Skeens, I think Dylan Cruz is out of the top 5, but Jackson Holliday. Outside of those guys, who do you think has the best big league career?
Outside of the top 5, yeah, I think there's 2 young shortstops that are really intriguing. Jordan Lawler with the Diamondbacks, who just got called up. Super twitchy athlete, just a really, really good feel for making adjustments. Got off to a slow start this year, but you guys know so much of this game is about making adjustments, learning, and continuing to apply all your coaching. And he does a great job of that. He's a great athlete. He can play shortstop. He's athletic enough to play center field and steal bases. He's a catalyst, makes contact, and hit for power. Can do a lot of good things. And then also Marcelo Meyer, who's a shortstop in the Red Sox system, got hurt this year, but just such a smooth operator, both in the box and at shortstop. It's really just kind of nice and pleasant to watch him in a way. He's one of those guys that's graceful, everything he does. It's a smooth left-handed swing, power's coming. Just a really, really good ball player. So those 2 young shortstops are 2 players that I think have very, very good careers ahead of them. And I look forward to watching continue to develop and get up to the big leagues.
Okay, Kyle, as we've been chatting, lots of questions coming in live from the YouTube crew. So let's start with our guy, Toasty, who said, and you mentioned him earlier, can we talk about Ethan Salas? Should Padres fans be excited?
Yeah, you talk about poise. This is a tremendous, tremendous young player. The Padres promoted him to low A this year when he was 16 years old, first 16-year-old to see full season ball since Adrian Beltre. He is remarkably polished and poised. When you think about it, he was the age of a sophomore in high school going into his junior year, and he looked completely comfortable again in full season ball facing some guys who were 22, 23-year-old college draftees. Super mature at bats, does not chase, calm with his takes, puts good swings on the ball. It's a nice, beautiful, smooth left-handed swing. There's power coming, makes adjustments, and defensively as well. Just really, really, really polished in receiving, blocking. He's bilingual, knows when to go out and talk to his pitchers. He comes from a baseball family. He's very, very advanced in a lot of ways. Again, still very, very young. Has to build up the strength and durability. Eric, you know better than anyone, and AJ, you as well. I mean, it's a grind, physically and mentally catching day in and day out at any level. And that just comes with time and experience and physical gains, which he still needs to make. And the Padres need to give him time to do that. But from an ability and poise perspective, he's a remarkable young talent.
Does he fizzle out like his uncle did? Or does he make the jumps like his dad did? And then, his intelligence just takes him to another role? Because I played with his dad. I played against his uncle. And it's incredible to me that we both have kids the same age, and one of them's this far into pro ball.
Yeah, look, you never know when you're talking about teenage prospects. Again, you guys can speak to this. So many guys who you played with that had tremendous talent, looked like they had it all, and then just hit a wall or fizzled out, or any number of things happen. Especially talk about catchers. So, injuries pop up. The grind of the position can wear guys down, but everything he has shown to date makes you optimistic that he has a chance to be a very, very talented, special young player. Again, it's the swing, it's the poise, it's the ability to make adjustments. It's the power that is starting to come. It's the receiving. It's how he handles himself with his pitchers, with his coaches, with the media even. Talking to him, you don't feel like you're talking to a 16-year-old. So all the ingredients are in place, but like anyone else, he has to stay healthy. He has to stay on the straight and narrow. He has to continue to put in the work. If those things happen, he certainly has a chance to be a very, very special player in San Diego for a long time.
Okay, this one from D-Rod. We have a few Yanks fans in the chat who are looking for some hope, and they feel weird. They're like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with my eyes and my hands. It's September, and it's meaningless baseball, and we're just rooting for spoilers. So let's talk prospects. My thing for Yanks fans is I'm like, you get to actually try dudes out in the bigs, and I know Dominguez, obviously, it was short-lived, but it looked awesome for a week, but the injury occurred. So going down to the farm, D-Rod says, will Yanks' new crop of prospects have an impact in 2024? Is Drew Thorpe the real deal?
Yeah, I mean, you look at guys like Spencer Jones, you look at guys like Drew Thorpe. We saw Austin Wells come up. You know, all these guys are in the upper levels or have made the jump to the big leagues. Everson Pereira fits in there. So there's definitely a good young crop, especially of position players the Yankees, you know, have an opportunity to give playing time to. We've seen in the past they've preferred to give it to older veterans, sometimes to the team's detriment. So letting these young guys get out there, play, get consistent reps and ABs. Yeah, there's certainly things to like with all of them. In terms of Drew Thorpe, I actually got to see him when he was at Cal Poly. Great changeup, really durable. The big thing with him is we see fastball changeup pitchers have a lot of success in the minors. Then once they get to the majors, they tend to have more struggles. Chris Paddock is a prominent example of this. We've seen a guy like Gavin Stone with the Dodgers destroy the minors with his great changeup, came up to the majors. And if you can't beat guys with your fastball, it can be a problem. So with Drew Thorpe, while his minor league numbers were exceptional, he probably fits more as like that number 4 or 5 starter rather than a frontline stud, just because it's mostly about the changeup. The fastball is just okay. The slider's inconsistent. He can still add velocity. He's got some room to grow. He's got a good slider. He's poised. He's durable. Does a lot of good things. And look, a good number 4 starter is valuable. Again, AJ and Kratz, can talk about it. You can have 2 studs, but if you're rolling out bad starters, number 4 and 5 every time out, you're not going to win many games. So he should be a solid starter for sure, but just probably not that frontline stud that maybe his minor league numbers might indicate.
One more before we move to another org. Roderick Arias, who was, a big international prospect addition for them a couple years ago for the Yanks. Do you know his progress and where he's at?
Yeah, really, really talented young international player. Again, long way to go, but you see the tools, you see the ability. The Yankees have done a really good job with international signees recently. You talk about Jason Dominguez, Everson Pereira. We've seen Oswald Peraza. We've seen Oswaldo Cabrera. So they've done a good job scouting Latin America. And this is another guy who has a chance to, again, potentially do some things. But, we're talking about a really, really young kid at the lowest levels of the minors with a lot of physical development and a lot of developmental steps to go. So give him time. But there's certainly exciting tools to be intrigued about and to keep an eye on.
All right, so 2 more to go here, and this is an org question. So we have a lot of White Sox fans that watch and listen to the pod. Go figure. So AJ early in here said that the White Sox just hired Barfield, director of player development, assistant GM. Will he be able to turn around the Sox terrible player development? Because the one thing, we're talking about Yankees dudes, and obviously they have not had, it's clear, they have not had a lot of success bringing guys up to the show over the past 10 years that have turned into legit big leaguers. But a lot of Yanks fans think this next group's going to do that. So thoughts on what you're seeing here on the White Sox side, and can kind of mix in your overall thoughts on what you're seeing on the development side, because there still seems to be these massive gaps with certain teams that just pump out prospects. And every dude that comes up has a legitimate chance to stick in the big leagues or make a big impact. And other teams where it's just disappointment after disappointment. And sometimes it seems like, I don't know, you tell me, are they doing too much with some teams, and others, do they not have the resources?
Yeah, so first with Josh Barfield, he did a really, really good job with the D-backs. And again, this is a guy who brings credibility, was a big leaguer, comes from a big league family with his dad. I remember watching him with the Padres growing up in San Diego, had some really good years, and he did a really good job with the D-backs farm system. We've seen the D-backs bring up some really good young players, Corbin Carroll obviously being most prominent, but a lot of other guys have progressed up to the big leagues. And again, they've had some early struggles, Ryan Nelson, Brandon Pfaadt, etc. Alec Thomas, but these guys are overall progressing the right way up through the system. They're getting to the majors, and now they just have to make adjustments. I think Josh Barfield, again, having the big league experience, he gets it. He knows what it takes. He's become a good talent evaluator. And he did a really nice job in Arizona, helping young players continue to get better and putting them in situations to be successful. I think he will be a help to the White Sox. In terms of your bigger question about player development, we like to think that every organization is perfectly in sync and they have the best coaches, but they don't. Some teams put in a lot of resources into strength training and nutrition and hire the best coaches, and others don't. I mean, it's no different than any other level. Some coaches are better than others, and the best ones tend to get paid more. So it's about teams putting in the resources and being willing to pay for the best coaches, being willing to pay for the best nutrition, being willing to pay for the best strength and conditioning equipment. And some teams just aren't. And so you see a lot of guys in some organizations who are really talented, have tools, but they just never progress physically, or they never learn the nuances that help take them from good to great. And a lot of times it's because the organization just didn't invest in the resources to help them get there, where other organizations like the Dodgers spare no expense. They hire all the best coaches. They bring in the healthiest meals. They have the nicest facilities, and they are constantly working with these guys to help them get better, to give them the time and the resources. That's a big reason why Dodgers prospects in general are very, very successful when they get to the big leagues very quickly.
Yeah, we're big on that, and we talked about that a lot, and it makes sense. I mean, and it's how you get the continuity going with that franchise, because it's not just like every top spending team does well, Mets, Padres, etc. So let's finish with this, Kyle. Justin asks if teams were saving prospects at the trade deadline to use in the offseason to trade for guys like Trout, Arenado, Burns if he's available, Goldschmidt. To me, I mean, I think there's been a process for a while where many GMs keep getting tighter on what they want to, give up in their own farm system, and especially with dudes that are close to the show, because they're like, I'm going to get a league minimum guy for years that's going to help me, and I just spent a lot of time and effort into grooming him to be a big leaguer. So what are you seeing on the trade front?
Yeah, teams are definitely more and more reluctant to trade top prospects. We see teams being willing to trade guys who rank, 50 to 100 on the overall top 100, and guys who are maybe number 7 or 8 in their own system, who are good players, but not that elite level prospect. It's pretty rare to see guys who rank in the top 50 and at the top 100 get traded anymore. And a lot of it is, we see so many young guys come up and have an immediate impact, and teams are wary of being the team that trades one of those guys away, and it comes back to haunt them. In terms of trade deadline versus offseason, a lot of times it's just about, not having that clock. A lot of times teams engage in discussions over the deadline, but for whatever reason, they just can't come to an agreement. I had a GM once tell me that for every deal that gets made, there's 10 others that are discussed that don't get made at the deadline. Whereas the offseason, you have a little more time. You can do a little more due diligence, be more thorough in your evaluation. So we do tend to see teams make more moves in the offseason involving bigger names, both on the the player side in terms of prominent big leaguers, as well as prospects. A lot of it's just a time component.
Kyle, this was awesome. Really great to have you on and have some time to be able to spend. A lot of questions coming in all the time, and still more. And I told everyone, all right, we'll bring them back and we'll get to more in the future, but really enjoyed it, and enjoy the end of this season and October. And obviously we'll have you on again soon.
Sounds good, Scott. Looking forward to it.
Thank you. That's Kyle Glaser. You can read all of his work on Baseball America, and also, of course, follow him on Twitter. We'll post some of those clips up there so you can give him a follow, but he's great, super informative. And there's a lot of dudes to keep up with in the minor leagues. He's pretty locked in. Before we get to a little That's What He Said with some notable quotes over the past 24 hours, just want to shout out our friends at Shady Rays. We're all inside today, but look at this guy. Is that a lost and broken replacement?
No, I stole these. These are yours.
So it's a stolen replacement. But you did recently lose a pair, AJ.
I did. I left them.
R.I.P.
I think Chris Gett stole them.
It was your cart boy. Your cart boy took it.
My caddy I had on Monday at the White Sox golf tournament. It was raining, so you got a free pair of sunglasses.
Well, you know what to do.
Call Shady Rays, they'll give you a new pair, right? Lost,
Hook you up with a
replaced.
new pair.
Just don't like
Hey.
them. They look bad on Scott. Give them
No
to me.
questions asked.
When you get your new pair, make sure you get a pair that comes with smiles, because every time you put them on, you don't smile. You get this like hard
Yeah,
face, and they
sure.
make me happy. When I put them on, I'm like, like it's so nice. That's
'Cause
fine. That's better.
That particular pair, I will say, Kratz, makes you feel cool because
So cool.
the whatever you call it on the outside that we're looking at right now, which is just a straight like blue steel mirror, it slaps. So that's what causes
You know,
like
the best part, they're super comfortable.
Yes.
They're lightweight, which I love. I hate heavy sunglasses.
Bring them back, please. Those are mine.
Don't.
Thank you.
Lost and stolen. Sorry, Scott.
No, that's fine. I know the number. I know what to do. I'll get a new one. I like that pair. That's my favorite pair. So exclusively for the FT fam, the code is FOUL, FOUL. ShadyRays.com is the website, and it is their best deal of the year. It is 50% off 2+ pairs of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself. The shades rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people.
By the way, Kratz, he likes them so much he left them for me to steal. So, you know.
Hey, sorry.
His loss.
Yep. His lost and stolen replacement. See ya.
Always punished for being a good friend. I buy him books. I leave my Shady Rays, and then he just makes fun of me for it. But whatever, I'll take the hit. It's all good. It's all good. He's got dinner.
Things. I use all your things.
I know. That's why I'm trying to, like, you know, it's called, what is my niece calls it, they teach in elementary school, bucket.
Rent.
Have you ever heard that? Like
it's called rent, Scott. You owe me rent. Just say you're trying to pay your rent.
With sunglasses and books? Okay, fine. It's better than New York City rent, I'll tell you that.
Put it in the bucket.
Put it in the bucket, right? Fill your bucket. That's what it is. Fill your bucket. Compliments good things in life, good vibes. On that note, let's do That's What He Said, which often has some negative vibes, but we're going to try to be positive, at least with some of this. So let's start. You want to start positive or negative?
Negative to end on the positive.
Okay. Because I have a few. So negative.
Always end on the positive, Kratz. You know, I mean, bring us
I was
up.
just like, maybe we'll never get to the positive, so I'd rather have the positive. I'll eat my ice cream first and then my vegetables.
All right, so let's start
It
negative
leaves
for
a bad
AJ.
taste in your mouth, see?
Giancarlo Stanton, not good this year. Yankees, not good this year. Yesterday used the word, quote, terrible to describe his performance this season. And, quote, there's a lot of things I've got to work and adjust on. But if you guys think I'm just showing up and going out there and not working, then I don't know what to tell you. Decipher this for me, because clearly he hears the haters. And do you feel, and should fans feel bad for him because he's not performing up to his ability? And, you know, he's not the same dude this year. And the way he was running around the bases at some points this year was definitely indicating that I hope he's hurt, because he's not that slow. So what do you guys take from what Big G said, who clearly nobody wants to go on the field and not do well, like your boy Aaron Hicks too, Kratzy, who then moves on, and he's going to be a playoff dude. And the next dude we're going to talk about is a former Yankee who's going to be a playoff guy as well. But what did you think about this?
I love it.
Yeah. He was honest. There's no I stepped on AJ answering it, but I think we're going to be on the same page in the sense that, like, this guy is showing his honest feelings, and he's a pretty reserved guy. He rarely talks to the media that much, and when he does, you know, he doesn't. That's just how he is. I mean, he's decently reserved with his teammates too. And if you feel like you are being accused of something, we talked about it earlier, of not working hard, there's very few things that can really get at a player that deeply. That's a deep cut. So for some reason, he felt like people were saying that, and he needed to put that to bed. But you said before, Scott, you said, should we feel bad for him? He's not looking for anybody to feel bad for him. I have never met a player like G who does put the work in. That's like, man, I hope they feel bad for me because, you know, I'm trying to figure this out. No. He's not. I don't think he's asking for people to feel bad for him.
No, he's being honest, and we always want honesty, right? Said he was terrible this year, and he's going to go to work. That's what you want to hear out of a guy. Hey, I didn't have a great year. Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to bust my ass this offseason, and get back and be better next year. So if you're a Yankee fan, you should be excited about this. This is a great quote, and I love this. And listen, he should be applauded for being honest. And we all have up and down years, and we all have up and down weeks and up and down months or whatever it is. But listen, good for you. Good for you, Giancarlo Stanton, for saying this. And I hope it works out. I hope he goes out, busts his ass this offseason, and comes back better.
And I'll add to that. Sorry to interrupt you, Scott.
No, you're good.
This guy was an all-star last year. Something happened post all-star game in through this season that he hasn't been able to come back from, that he hasn't been able to kick, or he hasn't been able to get back to. He was an all-star going into the all-star break. And since then, it's gone south for him. So when he says, I'm going to need to get to work, don't expect Giancarlo to be like, oh, I changed my swing and I'm now this like uphill turner and I'm all back leg and all whatever it is, whatever the new gimmick is. G is an incredibly talented plus runs created plus player / plus OPS plus guy. Like, he is an elite player. Whether or not you think he's a Hall of Famer will be a discussion for the offseason. If he says he's going to get back to it, I'd put my money in that corner.
So also just side note, because we're on the Yanks and the Blue Jays are in town, with Merrifield on our socials, we put that he was going to join us today. The Wi-Fi out there, I guess maybe the Yanks didn't pay for it for the day. Ain't good. So we're gonna skip Whit today because we want a clean connection Whit to get all the good stuff. Plus, we've got a lot to get to. These guys clearly are fresh arms. They haven't been on for a little, so just letting anyone know that if they were looking for Whit, stay tuned. Probably the next couple days. One more on the Yanks front. This is another former Yank who's going to be playing playoff ball. So Brewers are winning today already. They've jumped the Cardinals. They won yesterday. They're days away from clinching a division title. 3-run home run to start the day yesterday by Josh Donaldson. And a little that's what he said from Adam McCalvey, getting this quote, or two quotes really on JD, because a lot of dudes right away are like, yo, you feel this in the clubhouse. Tyrone Taylor, quote, ever since he's been here, you could feel his presence. He was the MVP of the league. He's been mashing for us. And by the way, shout out to Taylor. Had 2 solo homers after Donaldson yesterday. And then Adrian Hauser, quote, the bringer of rain. That's how you describe it. And it rained on us tonight. And Hauser actually was great for them, too. Their starting pitching has been electric. But can you imagine if on the biggest stage, after being a total dud last year in October, Josh Donaldson is just a monster for the Brewers? Because the defense is there. That has not slumped. Some dudes even slump on D, which I think actually sometimes gets underrated. Like Trey Turner was slumping on defense when he was slumping on offense this year. Josh Donaldson, even last year when he went through his struggles, was still an elite glove. And he's still an elite glove at third base. And the Brewers love their run prevention. And they're like, dude gets hot, hits some missiles. He might help us, mess around and get to a World Series and pull off an upset.
Well, let's the Brewers are going to go by their pitching. I mean, listen, Josh Donaldson is only a Brewer because he got hurt. They threw him on the 60-day IL, and he's like a week later, he's out there running around full speed and taking BP and taking grounders, and the Yankees are like, we don't need this anymore. It's too much of a distraction. I mean, I hope he does well because I really do like Josh. He is a outspoken quality player, but he's got 22 hits on the year. Now, granted, 12 of them are home runs, but I mean, he runs into a ball every once in a while. But other than that, I mean, he's still the same guy. He has 2 homers in 9 games for the Brewers. It's not like he's going up there hitting 340, getting on base. I mean, he is what he is. He's going to run into a ball every once in a while, and that's what the Brewers wanted because before him, their third base was giving him no power production. So it's a good fit for the Brewers. But listen, I mean, he's not going to go out. He's not the MVP from 2015.
Yeah, and he might pick some balls at third. We'll see if he's facing some elite playoff arms. We'll see how it goes. But hey, you know what? That's the beauty of the homer. You pop one out at the right time, you're going to push your team to the playoffs, especially when you got Burns and Woody and Freddie going as your top 3 starters. You may only need one bringer of rain. But I think what Tyrone was talking about, and even Hauser was alluding to, he has a presence. He has a presence. Some people might say it's cocky. Some people might say it's, oh, that guy, he rubs me the wrong way. Normally, it's guys that didn't play with him. And so when you bring that confidence into a team that already has some confidence and they have been playing some really, really good baseball, yeah, he makes his presence felt. Yeah, you hit a 3-run dinger. That helps, but he's still, I think, hitting like 209 or 210 for his new team. He is just his presence in that clubhouse, on those road trips, on the bus. That's the kind of stuff I think these guys were more alluding to.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of characters, let's finish That's What He Said with Nick Castellanos. So, made a great play. I mean, it didn't look like it was going to be a great play, but it turned into a great play with a catch and foul ground. And the broadcast was so good because you hear John Kruk like, no, like, oh, catch it. Then he does and makes the throw home and gets Luke Williams, who was on third base. So you figured he was going to tag up and score the run for ATL. And the postgame from Castellanos, who got him out at home with the throw, quote, I thought I was going to drop it. And at the last minute, a voice popped up in my head and said, if you build it. No, it said, catch it and throw him out. And he did. And the Phillies end up winning that game. Castellanos also bashed a couple homers in that one, but that was the key play. Bryson Stott with getting the job done in extras. That was the difference. And they handed the Braves a 4th loss in their last 5. And that rivalry continues to look like it could be really interesting in the playoffs with what Nola did too. But where are the voices in your heads? Do you guys have that? Did you guys have that when you played? Like, go for this 3-2 slider, sit slider.
Nope. My voice was always like, this is the pitch I'm going to hit a dinger on. And the pitcher was just like, man, there's no way he's not sitting slider here. Slider. And I'm thinking, fastball. Dang it. I had those voices. I don't know if you want your outfielder having voices of trying to make this elite play at the end of the game. But hey, you know what? He made the play. And I think it was a cool interaction between Kruk, kind of leading up to understanding, no. Like, this is the situation where you need to drop this ball. It was shallow enough he could have thrown him out, but for him to catch it and turn and throw, he's a very accurate thrower, average arm, above average accuracy. But to make that throw, my question is, and maybe AJ will completely debunk this, I've always wondered, why is Luke Williams sliding in that situation? Sliding is slower. Run right through, and in my opinion, he gets past that ball right there. But because he slid, it's a slower move to the plate. But anyway, that's for another day.
Ask Jeremy Giambi if he should have slid when Derek Jeter flipped and got him out.
He would have been dead out then.
No chance. He would have been safe.
So a slide would have been faster?
The only way Posada got him was because he reached and his hand was up. He would have slid under him. But I digress. Nick Castellanos is hilarious. Voices, yeah, I didn't have voices. The only voice was they're throwing at it, swing at it, and get a hit. And then also, I don't know that I've ever seen it where a guy has intentionally dropped the ball. It's easy to talk about, but I don't know that I've ever seen it at the big league level where a guy has intentionally dropped a foul pop.
I feel like I have. I feel like down the line, when you're like up against the wall.
I just don't. I don't remember. Like, I played in a lot of games and I never saw a guy drop it. There were times where you're like, drop it, you dumbass, and he catches it, but they just are taught to catch the ball, so they catch it.
And outfielders are not that locked into the game. They're in the outfield, like, working on their swings and stuff in between pitches, and you're back here grinding as a catcher. You're like, okay, 7-3, looking up at the guys, looking into a hitter's soul, and you look at the left fielder, and he's out there going,
it's true,
trying to work on your swing.
All right, ready to do the gritty? We got things to do. Gritty, and then an amp caller too. For anyone in the YouTube chat that hasn't been involved on an amp call yet, you can follow us at Foul Territory. But let's jump into the gritty. AJ, AJ's got to call a game, so let's get the clock on there right away. Okay. So we've got Rockies, Royals, 3,000 plus career Ks pitching wise. Mets, Braves, Dodgers down the left column. Okay. And AJ, by the way, you do gritty and then you're out of here. We'll take the amp caller. I like how we produce the show on the fly. So 5 minutes on the clock. Feel ready to go. And crowd on YouTube can play along too. Everyone good?
Yep.
All right. Let's begin.
Lucas Duda, KC, and the Mets.
Beautiful. 7%.
Damn,
More
that's
than
a
I
high
thought.
number.
That's
Yeah.
way higher than I thought.
So my question is 3,000 career Ks. Does that mean they had to get the 3,000 K with the Mets? Or they just
No.
had to pitch for the Mets at some point in their career?
Some point in their career.
Okay. Well, I mean, KCLA with Greinke seems like the logical, but that seems like there's going to be a lot of people that know that one. What about Callaspo? Didn't he play for the KC? Alberto Callaspo.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's a great one.
that would be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Point
0.1%.
one. We'll take that.
Fantastic. Good
Take
pull
that
right
life.
there.
Hey, did Charlie Culberson play for the Rockies?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
But did he actually play in a game for the Brett? I'm kidding. Just
He
this
did.
year, he didn't play in a game. He
That's
got
good.
one at bat.
That's good, though.
2%.
2%. Nice.
In a Rays hat. I love that. You should get extra if there's another team hat.
I mean, Matt Kemp works for Colorado and LA, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Let's run that.
Although he's a big name, it's going to be a high number probably. Yeah.
20%.
I have one for Atlanta and KC. Justin Yamas. Taylor Hearn.
Taylor Hearn. That's pretty recent, though.
I know, but
Yeah.
I'm curious to see
Did
what the
Alcides?
crowd does there.
Okay. Go for it.
Just because, it's a name that spent such little time. See,
Yeah.
0.8%.
0.8. I like that.
Fantastic.
It's no 0.1.
Yes.
Now, obviously, Daniel
Yes,
Murphy.
yeah.
Daniel Murphy would be a good Rockies Mets, but that's
What
another
about
big name.
Michael Kadire?
Yeah, another big name. Less recent. I would say that would be a lower number.
Let's do Kadire. Also, because we're playing some speed today, too. See if we can do it with like a minute left on the clock.
6%.
6%.
Better
Can I
than
give you
Max,
one
yeah.
from Jackson on 3,000 strikeouts? Pedro Martinez with the Mets. Do you think about Pedro with the Mets? I don't.
I do, because it was around that Phillies time that he was
True.
throwing that slop up there.
11%.
I think that's good for the 3,000.
Yeah,
Shoot,
because there's not that many of them.
That's what I'm saying. That was nice.
I mean, Dodgers. I mean, who do you go with? You go Kershaw, Greinke. I mean, there's
Further
Gee.
back.
I mean, yeah, but there's not that many 3,000 strikeout guys.
D-Rod said Fernando Valenzuela. No.
He didn't have 3,000 strikeouts. No chance.
Mm-mm.
I mean, Atlanta. Is it like a Maddox kind of one of those?
I'm trying to think of somebody that came through there real quick. Like Randy Johnson didn't play on either of those.
No,
Sabathia didn't play on either of those. Did Steve Carlton hit the Dodgers?
No, I know. I
He was
think so.
Cardinals, Phillies.
He didn't go White Sox, did he?
Steve Carlton.
I'm assuming Koufax didn't pitch long enough.
He didn't pitch long enough, I don't think.
Mm-mm.
Geez, we're running out of time here. We're down to a minute.
Like Don Drysdale, is he a?
I mean, do you think Scherzer for the Dodgers or no?
Are you just jumping us with Don Sutton? Because did someone suggest him? Oh, yeah. AJ early said go for Don Sutton. All right,
Yeah.
fine. Oof, see?
34%.
That's 34%, though. That's so hefty.
Did Gaylord Perry pitch for the Braves?
I don't know. Phil Negro, did he
Negro's
get
the
3,000?
one. Negro's the one that would be the guy, but he's a big name there.
No, but there's a lot of big names for ATL. So
Like he would be the older one. That's why I would think.
Yeah, Negro would probably be the one.
I like that.
Get it under the gritty time.
I mean, there's only like 20 guys that have ever gotten this number. So.
12%. Not bad. Right. I mean, you're going to get a high number there. Not bad. Good day, everyone, with 10 seconds to spare. Do whatever you want with it.
There's some great Don Sutton stories, by the way, that we can't tell on air.
Oh, well, then what's the point of even bringing it up? You're just teasing.
There's some great stories outside of the house I'm in that can't tell on air too. Like,
yeah, I got a lot of stories in general. I can't tell.
Scott's got a lot of stories,
including the one. By the way, I'm gonna write him out before I have to go. Did you guys see the? If you can't follow. I don't know if Eric follows Scott's lady friend on the Instagram, but there is a lovey-dovey, kissy-wissy photo that she just runs for like 2 minutes on her story about those two and their lovebirds.
Cute.
Oh, it's so cute.
Great.
Don.
Thank you. AJ gets out of here on that note.
Don Sutton and Scott's lady friend.
That was a great follow-up.
Yes, Don Sutton and Scott's lady friend.
Yeah, so now we know what the Don Sutton stories were. Get out of here. Let's slap
By the way, hold on before I go.
What?
No, I want to give my best wishes to Charlie Manuel.
Oh, go ahead.
No,
You're
that's
up.
it. I just best wishes to Charlie. You're always awesome to me. I never played for you, but I played against you, and I've known you for a long time. So get well, Charlie. Can't wait to see you at a ballpark talking it.
Yeah, I'll obviously echo that, and so will Kratz, of course, who knows Charlie well.
I was gonna hit it and slap hands, but I can hit it now too.
Yeah,
you text a guy. I always think it's unbelievable. You can text a guy like, there was a chance, there's a chance he was going to die. There was something that, the stroke that he had was severe, and there was a 24-hour period that we didn't know what was going to happen. And about 24 hours, 48 hours after it happened, I texted him because I heard he was accepting texts, and I was just like, man, Chuck, I was like, thought we lost you there. Like, it scared that scared me a little bit. And he knows how I feel about him and stuff. And he responds back to me. He goes, "What the hell?" Just that was his text, and I had to read it in a Southern accent because that's just him. Like, he's just like, "Oh man, what was it? What just happened? I had a stroke." Oh well, I'm gonna come to the ballpark soon. But he seems like he's in great spirits. He seems like everything's going great, and he was a huge mentor in my career, but also, he was a fan of mine, and he got me the opportunity really to be a big league baseball player when a lot of coaches didn't, especially big league coaches. They were just kind of like, whatever. Kind of like Kyle Glaser was constantly bashing old guys in AAA. Chuck saw something different in me, and so I appreciate that from Chuck, and I'm glad he's getting better.
That's awesome. Yeah, we're thinking about you, Chuck. All right, now, let's slap hands. Kratz hats first. What do you got? A little baby blue? What are you, a Tar Heel today?
No chance. I don't know anything about colleges. It was one of the Iron Pigs throwbacks. You see the iron on the top there, and then the Liberty Bell. Obviously, Iron Pigs. I told you I found a bunch of Iron Pigs stuff, but man, this one I haven't seen since we wore it. I think we wore it in 2015 when I went back for like a month to be in AAA. So it's a cool hat, and when you're in Philly, you can always wear it, and people are like, "Oh, what is that, John?"
Yeah, that's a good pull. Iron Pigs know what's up. All right, I can already hear. We've got our AMP caller. If you're on AMP, great. You can talk to us. If not, get on there. Free. You can listen to the show that way and call in. So AMP caller, name, favorite ball club, question or comment.
Hey guys, I really do appreciate you taking my call. I called last week. My name is Dylan. I'm a Yankee fan. I'm from New Jersey. My question is about the pressure playing in New York. You look at guys, Donaldson, Aaron Hicks, Sonny Gray, even like Frankie Montas or Stanton, who have struggled playing in New York. And I know obviously Kratz played in New York. And I just wanted you guys' opinion on the pressure of playing in New York, and everyone talks about it. And I was just curious if that's a real thing that goes through players' minds and can happen. I appreciate you guys taking the time. Thank you.
Thanks, Dylan. Appreciate you listening, man. And it better be a factor, Kratz, because some dudes go over to New York or Boston or some of the cities that put more heat on you, and they suddenly suck. And I don't feel like you see that as much with other teams. So there better be some heat.
There's heat. There's definitely heat. But you might be asking the wrong dude. Like, I had a total of 36 at-bats with the Yankees, and 34 of them were when there was no fans or reporters actually in your face at the stadium. But I've seen it. I have seen it. And really it comes down to, you kind of see it with Trey Turner in Philly earlier this year. You want to do well. And outside of the fact that New York is under a much, everything's under a microscope. You can't ever hide things. It's a environment where you have to be super confident in who you are. And because when you struggle, the questions are going to come out like, was this guy really worth the contract that we got? Was it really worth the prospects that we gave up to trade for him? Like, why do we have this guy? They're always looking for the next guy. They're always, no matter what position. I think the best position you can be is the first base coach for the New York Yankees, because they rarely ever get on that guy. But honestly, the whole thing comes down to how you handle it and your inner circle of people. Like, look at what happened to Trey Turner. Now we're talking about Philadelphia. I think Philly is a very difficult market also, but he wanted so badly to succeed. He didn't succeed. He had a ton of support from his wife, by his admission. He had a ton of support from his teammates by their admission. They were all behind him. But when the fans got behind him and they were supportive of him, it shows what has happened. It doesn't mean he's a better player now. It's the same player. But when the struggles mount on top of each other, I've had seasons where I've started out so terribly. Every time you look up at the scoreboard, you're like, oh my gosh, can they just not put my batting average up? Can they just not put up the fact that I don't have any home runs and it's May? All that stuff goes through your head. And in New York, it's extrapolate. It just multiplies. And when a guy like Donaldson comes in last year and he's hitting balls that he thinks are dingers, whether it was because they changed the balls or is because he was, quote, declining, it doesn't matter. He thinks they're dingers, and now all of a sudden these balls aren't going out of the yard, and then they're booing. All that stuff is just compounding on top of each other and multiplying in your brain. And you're never sitting there. I heard John Kruk say at one time, the fans have never booed me when I've been cheering myself. So you're booing yourself as a player. It's just how much do you let that pressure get to you? But with that, you're under a microscope. There's plenty of players that fold when they get to a new team. Not everybody that the Rays pick up does really well. You're just under a larger microscope. More people tell you how terrible you are. Look at how much hate Aaron Boone gets. The guy has the best winning percentage of any manager for the first, whatever he's been there, 6 years. And they've been calling for his job since 2019 when they were one win away from going to the World Series. Like, it is all, you have to block out the haters, and you have to be willing to do, you have to be willing to hear some of this stuff, because it's not going to end. You're going to go 3 for 3 and they're going to put you in the Hall of Fame. You're going to go 0 for 3 the next night and the boo birds will come out.
There you go, Dylan. That's as thorough of an answer as you're going to get right there from Mr. Kratz, former Yankee. Join AMP, follow at Foul Territory, and you can be like Dylan and ask a question at the end of the show. So tomorrow, I can promise you this. Lorenzo Cain, part of the crew.
Ooh.
Ken Rosenthal joining us with a little inside dish. maybe a closer in the bigs. Maybe. I know AJ's also working on a pretty big name that is out in the Ohio area. So stay tuned on all of that. Plus, we definitely got to hit on these AL and NL races, wild card in the National League, American League with the Astros, Mariners, and Rangers just looking at mirrors of each other and doing the same thing. And then the ballpark situations, Tampa Bay and Milwaukee. We'll get Kratz and AJ's take. I haven't heard from them about what's going down there. And a lot more to get to on Fridays. FT Live. See you then.
You gotta speed it up. I need to go to sleep. 14 hours tonight.
Poker tonight.